We're good. All right. Good Monday so far for our guys. Fun game coming off the weekend. I thought that was a great environment for our guys to go put their best foot forward and play their most complete game. Certainly excited about what's ahead of us here at the end of the season, and I'm excited about the direction our guys are going. So can open it up.
Great, your first on the right, Zach.
After getting to watch the tape, I'm curious if the positives were as good as you thought they'd be, and if some of the negatives were as bad as you thought they would have been.
Well, I certainly think we played a complete game, but I know also that we can play a lot better. And there's some moments there where I think we stubbed our toe, whether it be a penalty here or there that kind of held us back. You look at the end of the game, we had some penalties on drives at the end of the game that led to punts. Not necessarily the cause of a punt, but we just put ourselves in position. We could have been a lot more successful, throughout the game. And there's some missed opportunities that were sitting out there as well that we can take advantage of. Lots of room for growth. But did we play a complete game? Yeah, I absolutely feel like we did.
Second row left there.
You now said a couple times you thought you played a complete game. I'm curious if you can use this as almost a measuring stick to live up to for the future, and kind of how to use this as motivation.
Well, I told our players I think that this is what we're capable of, and since this summer we've talked about the process of good to great, and I'd say, hey, we're good, right? We're a good team right now, and really what you do in November, that's going to determine if we're a great team. And we want to play our best football at the end of the season. We've played our best football to date this last week. And we have to play better going forward. So if we continue to grow, I think that just shows what we're capable of. And we watched the film and said, wow, we could have played a lot better. So that's certainly a positive moving forward.
Back right, Trevor.
Along those lines, when you're playing so much high-stakes football right now, what do you say to your guys to really channel their emotions but also not play out of control? Because it seems like that's been a strength of this team so far this year.
Yeah, it's about the next play. We showed a clip this morning of Michael Jordan going into the basket. He makes a shot, turns around, gets a steal, then the ball gets stolen from him, and he runs all the way down the court and blocks a shot right before it goes off. And the emphasis of that was the next play, right? He wasn't worried about the shot he just made and acknowledging that. He wasn't worried about the steal he made and then lost. He was ready to go play the next play after that. And one of the biggest things that we can do as we move forward is focus on the next play, because that's the most important one. And our guys have had great focus this year to be able to do that. I think we've had response on both sides of the ball in adversity because of our ability to reset and not worry about what happened in the past, but what's next. And that'll be big for us as the season moves on.
Front left, James.
Post-game, Bo broke down the second touchdown and all the things that were going on pre-snap in detail, talking about the checks and reading the field pressure and et cetera, and the communication, everything that went with it. At the next level, that's very normal. But at this level, that's not necessarily normal. Wanted you to put in context how advanced he is compared to other college quarterbacks and the autonomy that he's had both last year and this year to other quarterbacks that you've been a part of and been a team, on those teams, whether it be Stetson or Riley Ferguson or et cetera. How unusual is what he's doing for you guys?
Yeah, certainly my role on teams that I've been in the past, I probably don't get as clean of a picture of what those quarterbacks were able to do for their team. But I'll say this: I've never been around a quarterback like Bo that understands what we're trying to accomplish so well. And there's times that we're there as a coaching staff on the sideline saying, "Okay, wait, what is he checking to? Oh, all right, good, that worked." And he gets it right a lot more often than not. And that was a look that we had worked a lot because it's a tough pressure to deal with. And we felt like we had a really good answer if we saw it. I thought our coaching staff and the players on the field had a really clear indication exactly what we wanted to accomplish if we saw that look. And Bo did a great job of getting us into that play, and our players did a really good job of executing. That happens every single week. Not every time is it a touchdown, right? But that happens every single week for us where he gets us into a play or our offensive staff identifies something that can get us into a play that we think is going to be successful, and that's just one example of it.
Front right, Zach.
Looking ahead to Cal, their offense has been much improved this year. They're a lot better than they have been in years past. After watching film of them, what have you seen that really has kind of elevated that for them?
Yeah, not remotely the same team that we've played in the past. These guys are scoring a lot of points. They're extremely efficient. I think they're playing some of their best ball, especially offensively here towards this point in the season. They found a rhythm. I think they've settled in at quarterback. They have some really talented skill players. I think their running back is leading the conference in yards, and certainly dynamic. Hits some explosive runs. He's an NFL back for sure. So they've created a lot of success for themselves on offense, and they play really sound on defense. their coaching staff obviously has ties to this place, but they've built a brand of what good defensive football looks like over his career, over Coach Wilcox's career, and I think there's a lot of things that are coming together for them. They're an extremely capable team, so yeah, they are playing their best ball right now, and they're going to be a challenge with some of the things that they do.
Second row, right, Jared.
Yeah, going back to Utah, I'm just curious what you made of Jeff Boss's performance and the way he was kind of consistently able to pressure Barnes. I think he led you guys in hurries.
Yeah, Jeff's a good player, right? And I think everybody else has seen, what we've always known as far as what Jeff can be. His biggest role for our team beyond, him making plays is really him getting us in the right call. He's our signal caller on defense. He's a phenomenal communicator. And because he studies and works so hard to know where things are going to be, it's why he's able to be productive too, because he knows where the ball's going before it goes there, right? He's able to beat people to the point of attack. He's able to understand what kind of rush move that he wants to use. So I'm really impressed with Jeff and excited to see him continue to grow.
On the left here, Eric.
We've now seen some examples, some snippets of your speeches before the game, I should say. I'm curious on where that comes from. Have you always had that command in a room, and how much preparation you put into those kind of things?
I don't know if I didn't really give speeches when I was a third grade basketball coach. I did take a speech class at Williamsville College. So no, I mean, we always want to find a message that we feel like fits our team and where we're at in the season and what we want to accomplish. And I think maybe you've seen some glimpses of that throughout this season. But yeah, it's more about what's the message for our team that week.
All the way in the back, Matt.
Your guys are saying they're starting to play some of their best football. You've said that this is the most complete game. Just are there things that you can point to that don't show up in the box score that are just better, that you guys are playing well in certain areas that maybe don't show up when a fan looks at, hey, yeah, sacks are up or third down conversions are up?
Well, I mean, defensively, missed tackles are down, right? And I don't know if that's something that ever gets really charted in the box score. I think our downfield blocking and guys being involved in plays where they're not touching the ball, that's up. And that's not going to be something that shows up in the box score. One of the things we coach the hardest today is how are we going to celebrate when we have a successful play? It doesn't seem like something a lot of people would coach, but we're watching this and say, hey, we can do a better job of getting a hat on a helmet after that's a phenomenal play. How are we going to celebrate that together? So there's a lot of things that really go back to our DNA traits when you talk about connection that we're looking for from our players. And I think we'll continue to see that as the season moves forward.
Front left, James.
Dorless's numbers year over year are very comparable, maybe a little head in sacks, but otherwise it's pretty comparable production. But the box score doesn't tell the whole story with him. And during the telecast, they were talking about how you guys were really raving about how different he is compared to last year. What is so different for him when the production is, again, on paper, it looks similar? What is making him more dynamic? Because last week he clearly had a greater impact than a couple of tackles.
Yeah, and I don't know what his exact production was last year, and I don't know really honestly what it is this year. I know what production looks like in our defense, right? And he's grading out consistently high. Production leader for us might be somebody that impacts the quarterback that doesn't necessarily get a QB hit or a batted ball. But he's playing with great effort and technique. I think what you'll see is his versatility is really showing up this year. We've moved him all across the front. Sometimes he's playing 3 technique. Sometimes he's standing up in the game like a linebacker last game, and we're pressuring him like a 0 nose. And then he'll play 5 technique. He'll play outside backer. So his versatility is really showing up for us. His intelligence as a player to be able to be moved around that much and execute at a high level is really showing up. And then just his fanatical effort. I think he's had great effort this season. That's led to him playing good ball.
Front right, Zach.
Spent most of our time talking about coaches and players, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your medical staff and the strength staff. How important have they been for you this year to be as healthy as you guys are to this point of the season?
They do a phenomenal job. Chief and his staff, we have a meeting every single day to give an update of where we're at. I think what we do in sports science here is really special. I think we're able to prevent a lot of injuries because before we get to an injury, we realize that a player's player load's high or his hamstring strength isn't where it needs to be, and we're able to pull off of them, modify practice to make sure that they're able to see the field, where I think a lot of places in the country don't necessarily have that technology or the ability to use that. I think our strength coach is unbelievable. Coach Love and his staff do a phenomenal job of connecting with our players and making sure they get the needs that they need to be able to go out there and execute. A couple things that we've changed on game day. We do a primer lift, with our players. We didn't do that in the past, and that's been something that's really good for us to activate their body, get them ready for battle, and they've done a good job with that.
On the left, Eric.
They've rotated through a couple quarterbacks this year, but it looks like Mendoza's where they've settled now. What impressed you this last weekend going against USC? Obviously, they were a 2-point conversion away from winning that one.
Yeah, his decision making. This offense is really built off of loaded box. We're going to be able to throw it over your head. Light box, we're going to be able to run it, and they've run the ball really effectively. But I think a lot of that comes down to the decision making of the quarterback because a lot of those are tied to RPOs. So he's done a great job with that. He's able to throw it into really tight windows. He throws a bullet pass. I mean, it's on him, and their wideouts, do a good job catching contested passes, but he puts it in a place where only they can get it. So he's operating at a high level. Probably doesn't get enough credit for the ability to run the ball as well. He's certainly had some successful runs this season with his legs. So really a complete player.
In the back, Matt.
What's just been the changes offensively from this year to, I guess, for your experience last year with them?
Yeah, biggest thing is probably just the tempo. I think they've run more plays than any other team in our conference right now. They've been able to establish the run, and they're doing a lot of that through scheme. And like I said, hat count. They're not running the ball into loaded boxes. When it's a loaded box, they're able to throw it over the top. And when it's light, they have a back that can be patient enough and then go from 0 to 100 real quick. So the scheme they've done a really good job with, the tempo that they operate with, makes you be simple on defense. And makes you execute, and everybody has to be gap sound because every play has two plays, right? You have a run play and you have a pass play on every play. So different people have different jobs and they have to execute at a high level.
Front left, James.
How unique is Kyrie's skill set for corners among corners you've coached? Because, again, going by production, corners don't usually get a lot of TFLs and make the reads that he did in the run game like he did this past week. He's great in coverage for you and also capable of that. That seems pretty unique. How unique is it?
Yeah, I mean, he has the unique traits of a player that can play for a long, long time, right? When you build him in, on Madden, that's how you build him. Long guys that can run. He's built like that, and he certainly is productive. When the ball's in his area, and he's proven that he's a willing tackler, which you can't always say that about a corner. He's proven that he is. So excited to have the versatility of him at that position.
Front right, Zach.
Now, you've said before that you don't love getting into comparisons, but are there similarities that you've seen between this team and the 21 Georgia team? And if so, what are they?
No, I don't think that the similarities. We're playing good football, but this team's definitely different than the 21 Georgia team. But I do think there's similarities in other teams that I've been a part of, and how we play, how we execute, and really the love for one another. There's definitely some similarities in that. But as far as where our strengths lie and what kind of team we are, where we really hang our hat, I think there's a lot of differences really between us and that team, but there's definitely similarities in other teams that I've coached.
Front left, James.
With how uncertain punter was throughout the offseason, wanted you to give some context to exactly how well Ross is doing for you. You want it to be a small sample. It has been. But if he qualified statistically, he'd be third in the country. Just how different is that position for you compared to last year where it was always uncertain?
Yeah, Ross played his best game this last game, and that's one of those ones that I don't know if it always shows up, but it's not just the distance you punt it, it's the hang time that you put on the punt. He gave us an opportunity to have a sky kick that we could have pinned inside the 10 that we weren't able to pin, but he had a terrific kick. He's executed at a really high level. So really proud of, his performance and how he continues to compete there, and bring it every single week. But last week was a really good job by him.
On the right, second row, Jared.
Yeah, to piggyback off of James's earlier question, I think Jalil had a really good game tackling wise against Utah too. Just how have you seen him kind of progress physically and kind of improve in that regard this year?
Well, the more you play, the more experience you get, which Jalil is really developing a lot of experience this season, the faster you can play. And I think, this past game, he played fast, at moments and was decisive. And when you're decisive, then you can execute at a high level. He had a guy that he had to track all the way from the backside of a play all the way across the field, which is a pretty elite play. I've seen a few players make plays like that. Him making that decision quickly when it's kind of confusing how they're all these moving parts. And able to execute is big time. And that being said, Jalil knows a couple plays that I pointed out that, hey, we got to get better at. But he has the ability to be a really good player for us here at Oregon.
Back right, Trevor.
Apologies for this in advance, but Halloween tomorrow, how do you balance the grind of the season with getting to spend some time with your family? Any costumes for you? And what's your go-to Halloween candy?
Yeah, so we actually, right before I came down here, all of our all of our staff and their families, we just did Halloween right around the facility here. I was wearing a werewolf mask. I don't normally dress up, but one of the coach's wives gave me a hard time that I'm not wearing anything. I'll say this: a werewolf mask is not the best mask to wear for little kids. So there's some small children in the facility that I had to rip the mask off quick, or they were going to be very upset. But yeah, it's a balance. That's part of the coaching world, but that's why we try to bring the experience here, and it was really good today.
Last question, James.
Quite the shift from that. It's very small sample on kickoff coverage and in defense. Yes, it's a lateral play designed to do what it did, but how do you feel about the coverage as a whole on the season and areas to improve there? Because the rest of the season play, I guess, for the better teams on kickoffs in particular.
Yeah, outside of that return, I thought we've made really good progress in kickoff this year. And that was, they had a great scheme. They had a great setup on that. We have to have some guys that play with great effort and get off blocks. You can't go 1-for-1 on kickoff and expect to have success. Outside of that, I think, we've really improved from that standpoint. Obviously, we've eliminated, Cam kicked the ball really, really well on Saturday. And we had some good coverage, but that one's certainly way too many yards. Now, the very next play, we were able to get a takeaway, and that made it really advantageous for us. But I'm pleased with the growth there. I'm looking for consistency there throughout the year, because just like you said, we're going to see some really good returners as this year continues to go.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.